Is my vagina going to fall out? This is a serious question that my clients come to me and ask. They're really concerned that their prolapse is going to progress and that they're going to have aspects of their vagina coming out of them. So you may be told that you have a prolapse by your nurse practitioner or your GP or your healthcare provider or even your physiotherapist, and you're very concerned what happens next. So I really feel for these clients because it starts almost getting into your head. You start thinking, can I feel it? Is it getting worse? I went running today. Is my prolapse worse? I went to the gym today. Is my prolapse worse? I went cycling. Is my prolapse worse? I've had sex. It feels more aggravated. Is my prolapse worsening? So usually the answer is no, it's not going to progress, especially if you take care of it. So many of us have a prolapse because as we age, some of the ligaments and the soft tissue that's supporting those organs in place, they start to descend. The ligaments will stretch and the soft tissue will stretch. We have children, we gain weight, we push when we're constipated on the toilet, we might have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease where we're coughing a lot, and these are things that can create a prolapse. So not just make it feel aggravated, but actually be causative, so you can actually get a prolapse with all of those things. So let's say my average client, she's had 1 or 2 babies, she's had a vaginal delivery, and she's been told, she's maybe in her 40s or 50s, and she's been told that she has a prolapse. And she's gone to her healthcare provider because she feels something there. She feels a bulge in her vagina. She feels a sensation of descent. When she coughs, she can feel this wah wah sort of sensation in her vagina. And she's wondering what is going on. So she looks in a mirror and she thinks, what is that I can see? I can see something at the entrance of my vagina. So they come to me and I will do an assessment. I give them an understanding of what's actually happening, where the prolapse is. So we have 3 grades of prolapse. So it's grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Grade 1 is where it's a mild prolapse, where the walls of the vagina have slumped a little bit, and therefore the bladder and the rectum, or potentially the uterus, is slumping down. And then we have grade 2, which is when the slump has hit the entrance of the vagina, and grade 3 is out. And we don't want it to be a grade 3, because then when it is pushing out, we have to push it back in, maybe once, twice, or several times a day. And that really gets quite uncomfortable. And of course, it's worrying and it's unsettling, and people can really start restricting their activities. So what do we do? Well, of course, we want to have a strong pelvic floor, and this is why. So I used this analogy the other day, and I don't tend to actually use this one, and I think other practitioners have. So anyway, I use it for the first time. I likened the pelvic floor to a sports bra, right? So you have your organs sitting in this basket of the pelvic floor that's sitting on the inside of your pelvic bones and is helping to support your pelvic organs. So we want to make sure that you have a nice strong pelvic floor that, say you do cough or you do sneeze, it kind of supports them. It gives them a bit of a lift. And not only that, it closes the entrance of the vagina so that if you do have some gapping or gaping, I'll talk about that in a second, if you do have that, then you don't feel the prolapse protruding if your pelvic floor is strong enough. And there's a couple other things. So one, we want to take care of the organs themselves. We want to make sure that we're not creating more damage. And that would be to make sure that we are not constipated, that you drink lots of water, you have your fiber, you don't push on the toilet, you do your breath work, you do your stomach massage, some of the things I've talked about in other videos. So you make sure that you're not constipated, and that you also wait for a minute, well, not even a minute, a few breaths. Let's say you're peeing and you feel like there's some pee that's left still. You don't want to and push that pee out. You want to rock back and forth and then have a couple breaths and allow that urine to finally be expelled, that last little bit. Because sometimes the if the bladder is prolapse, there's a little bit of a bend in the urethra, and sometimes it takes a little bit for that urine to come out. So don't push your urine out. Don't push the poops out. Make sure you don't be constipated. Make sure your pelvic floor is relaxed and not tight. So clients that have a tight pelvic floor, where they might have things like pain with intercourse, sometimes that tension can create almost a sensation of the prolapse, more kind of squashes things in there. When you have too little tone, which means like you have like kind of a less strong and it's kind of floppy pelvic floor, sounds really horrible, but people that really don't have very much strength there, I go in, I ask them to do a Kegel, I can barely feel the contraction. They also have a hard time with the sensation of their prolapse because it feels like things are just hanging out more. It's not being supported. So what do we ideally want? We want a strong pelvic floor that has lovely muscle bulk, because the pelvic floor muscle is just like any other muscle in your body. It's a muscle that can actually strengthen and thicken and become more robust. And it can be more active and when you need it to be. For instance, when you do cough and you think, oh, I forgot to do my Kegel, but by training, it comes on and it helps to stabilize those organs. So we want a really nice pelvic floor system, pelvic floor musculature that is strong but relaxed, right? We want everything to be relaxed, and then we want it to be strong, and then we want it to be relaxed again. We don't want it ever to be like tight and kind of contracted. Like a tight neck would never be good either. So we have a really great functioning basket, which would be the sports bra, to contain the breasts, or i.e. your organs, in the right position. If we don't have that lovely sports bra on and our tissues are sagging, we're going for a run and we're worried that we might actually be tearing that tissue, it's the same sort of thing with organs, our pelvic organs. We want to make sure that we have a nice stable pelvic floor that's supporting those organs. So hopefully that analogy kind of helped. So we want to take care of those organs by not bearing down and not also ensuring that we are staying healthy and trying to get our great exercise and really feel more robust in our systems in general. So I call it the scaffolding of the pelvis. So having a strong back and having strong posture and having strong hips and having good glutes, the muscles that are on the outside of the pelvis too. So what you want to do is that if you do have a cough or you have a sneeze, we do what's called the knack, or it used to be called the knack. I don't know whether a lot of newer physiotherapists call it that, but nonetheless, the knack is when you can feel a sneeze coming and you do a Kegel and you close those sphincters, you close the vagina, you close your urethra, close into the anus, and then you have your big sneeze. And hopefully you haven't created a lot of descent because you're lifting up. When you are lifting something heavy, like let's say you have to move a desk and it's quite heavy, or you have to lift your dog into the car, then you want to make sure you Kegel, you do the load, i.e. you do the lift, and then you can relax back out of that Kegel, okay? If we're doing a cough, we want to make sure we are Kegeling, and then we want to close the sphincters. Why? Because remember, there's the deep muscle system that's giving you nice support to the organs, but then there's the sphincters, which are also part of the pelvic floor muscle, that help to close the vagina so things don't sort of feel like they're poking out, okay? So make sure you do a Kegel properly, please, before you do a lift or a cough or a sneeze, and then you make sure that the opposite of true is when you are voiding your bowel and bladder, that you're relaxed, that you've done, good toilet habits. So, keeping the stomach relaxed, doing your breath work, not pushing. Wait until you really do have the urge to go, and you're not just pushing because you are in a rush and you got to get out the door, but you haven't had a poop yet, and so you're trying to push the poo out, okay? Those types of things are not good for your organs. We don't want to bear down. So the question that people are asking me, okay, I've done that, Kirsten, I'm doing my knack, I'm making sure that I don't push anymore in the toilet, I've got really great fiber, great water, but I'm 45, and when I hit 55, Is it just going to get worse after I go through menopause? Is it going to get worse when I hit my 60s? Well, we want to make sure that we have really lovely hydrated tissue, when we go through late perimenopause and into menopause. That might mean that you discuss things with your doctors, as in some hormone treatment or therapy, that you chat to them if you are feeling dry or that your tissues are thinning in the vaginal tissue or even up into the urethra. You might want to talk to them about hormones. You want to make sure that you are, if you are getting things like urinary tract infections, that you really discuss that with your doctor too, because it's often a sign that you are going into perimenopause and menopause. So keep those tissues as healthy as possible so that they don't thin, and so you have a nice, robust, strong pelvic floor. And then when we hit our mid-60s, where we often have another kind of change, our tissue becomes a little bit little more stretched, it has more collagenous change. So it means like our tissue can become a little bit crepey and whatnot, but also our tissue that's holding up those organs as well. That's when I see many of my clients come in, say, Kirsten, I was fine. I'm 63, I was great. And then I decided I was going to put a new garden bed in. And I went out there and I dug up all my plants, and the next day I feel like something shifted. I feel like I have a bulge sitting in my vagina, and I have been fine. I've never had any problem with prolapse ever before. But sometimes when we load up that system too much, especially in our 60s, and we're maybe haven't been to a therapist, we don't know how to Kegel, and we haven't looked after our pelvic floor, then we can create some damage at that time too. Because really it's us against gravity. Gravity is creating a downward force on those organs, as well as our face and our underarms and whatnot. So I hope this helps. I hope this allows you to understand that your prolapse does not have to get worse. You do not have to go from where you feel it in the vagina and then it comes out. Take care of the organs, take care of your muscle, and make sure that you utilize it properly, like the knack, so that it doesn't worsen. And sometimes, there's some research showing that let's say if you're obese, if you've gained a lot of weight and you're in that level, that as you start to lose some of that weight, there's less pressure on those organs also. And they've seen that those organs can kind of be lifted up a little bit. But people say, well, if I do my Kegels, can I make my pelvic organ prolapse go from a grade 3 where it's sitting out, or maybe it's a grade 2 at the entrance? I know I've gained about 50 pounds. If I lose that, will I go back up to a grade 1? No, it doesn't seem to happen that way. Not that I've seen in over 20 years. So I haven't seen that. Maybe someone else has, and please put in a comment below. Sometimes I'll be, I did squats and reversed my prolapse. I've not seen any research on that. But you can seem to kind of change it by what I call a half grade. So you'll have, say, a grade 2, and then maybe you lose weight, maybe you strengthen the pelvic floor, maybe you have better bowel habits, maybe you're using a pessary, and that's another conversation for another video. And it seems like that I do see a little shift. I see like a lightening of that prolapse. So instead of it sitting maybe right at the entrance, it seems to kind of lift up a little bit off the entrance. So what I would call a 2- in my world. But that means when you have a cough, it still hits the entrance, but it's not sitting at the entrance the whole time. So it actually is a bit more comfortable that way. So you can really help with making that prolapse not progress and taking care of it. So it doesn't always have to progress. In fact, oftentimes it doesn't. We just need to look after ourselves. So I hope this has helped. I know it's a bit long-winded, but it's pretty complex conversation with people. And I wanted to talk to you today because I don't want you to feel so scared to do any type of activity that you're worried that your prolapse is going to get worse. If you're cycling, if you're on the elliptical and you're doing your Stairmaster, the hardest things for your body to sort of stabilize is lifting a lot, like a heavy weight at the gym repetitively, so 50, 60 pounds, and doing deadlifts at the gym. That one's tricky for your pelvic organs to stabilize. So we know that lifting load can worsen that prolapse. Also, running does add quite a lot of force down onto those pelvic organs, but I do have many clients that we kind of get them back into a running program so they can run as safely as they can with that knowledge, because many people just feel better in their head when they're able to run or able to do exercise. And there's other things, other strategies that you can do later on, such as a pessary, such as discussions around surgeries, etc. So I hope that helps. I know it's long-winded. I'm very sorry about the long-windedness, but again, it's complex and I find it very interesting. I hope you did too. So all the best, take care. And if you like this video, push a like. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.